All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to North Andover Poets Corner for January 2021. It is great to have you all here. All right, well, welcome. Our feature tonight is a group of Powow River Poets. 4 poets are going to be reading from the newly released collection, the Powow River Poets Anthology II. The poets are Joan A.W. Kimball, José Edmundo Ocampo Reyes, Andrew Szilvasy, and Anton Yakovlev. And Paulette Turco, who's the editor of the anthology, is the host for the group. And I'll be turning it over to her in just a minute. And as far as North Andover Poets Corner, this is actually part 1 of 2 events with the Powow River Poets. So I let Paulette know that I'd like to have a group back in June when we are outdoors and in person. And what we've been doing in the summer is meeting at Stevens Estate in North Andover, at Stevens Estate at Osgood Hill, which is just this lovely mansion outdoor setting on the lawn near the woods. It's just great. So I'm hoping to do that in June. So look for updates on that. And as far as the open mic tonight, we're going to go in the order that people signed in. So I was recording that as people came in. With the numbers, we probably won't get to everyone, and I apologize for that. For the open mic readers, we'll ask you to limit yourself to no more than 5 minutes. And so basically that would be 1 poem or 2 short poems, okay? All right, upcoming events. I wanted to announce that I'm going to have a feature spot at First Friday Open Mic. This is in pre-COVID times, it would take place at Reach Arts in Swampscott, but of course now they're doing it online. And it's hosted by Lee Eric Friedman, among other people. And they are great in the sense that they have poetry and music and other performances going on. So it's really neat. What's exciting for me is that I'll be presenting the first public performance of my new chapbook, and it's titled That Restaurant Near the Parthenon. And it's a longer poem that I wrote as a performance piece of poetry and art for multiple readers. And that's the way we're going to be presenting it online, even though we can't be in person in a theater set. So look for that, February 5th, Friday, February 5th. It's going to be a lot of fun. And in fact, I have the copy of the book, the little chapbook that's coming out. I'll be announcing it that night. Okay, and then as we already talked about a little bit, on Tuesday, February 9th, the Frost Hoot will be taking place, hosted by Jim Noel. And he's the president of the Frost Foundation, and a group of powwow poets will be featuring that night also. Okay, so before I turn things over to Paulette, I was going to read a couple of haikus to kind of break the ice and clean the poetry palette. Hold on just a minute. Let me get this. So I'm muting everyone, and then when you speak, you can unmute yourself. Okay. So Bob Whalen couldn't be here tonight, but I'm reading haiku that he wrote that's in a little chapbook called Bowing Reeds. And Bob Whalen is just great if you're not familiar with him. Here we go. Hands cupping water. The sun quivers through the palms. Have a drink with me. Hands cupping water. The sun quivers through the palms. Have a drink with me. And another one. Family gathers. Forgotten clouds kiss the ground. Earth, air, and water greet. Family gathers. Forgotten clouds kiss the ground. Earth, air, and water greet. And then the last one. The space of one breath penetrates to the center of everything. The space of one breath penetrates to the center of everything. All right. And actually, if you want to unmute yourself while you clap, you can do that, because I find the total silence
Very nice.
like not conducive to people being appreciative. Not that, I mean, I'm not saying for me, I mean for like the real, for everybody. Okay, so Paulette, you have the chair. You have the podium.
Thank you, Mark. Well, thank you for your invitation to read at North Andover Poets Corner, and how you introduced the program. So wonderfully welcoming. And thank you everyone for zooming in. Before our readers start to read, I'll say a bit about how our project came together. The Powow River Poets Anthology II was assembled with our love of poetry and of two long-standing powwows, David Berman, in whose memory the anthology is dedicated, and David Davis, who was battling end-stage cancer when the project was launched. He passed away in July. We will read a poem by each of these poets. 27 powwows submitted 260 pages of their best poems, and the best 132 pages became the collection, and they were voted on by our editorial board, Rena P. Espaillat, Alfred Nicole, who edited the first anthology, and Jean L. Creeling. We presented our collection to Alexander Peppel, founder of Able Muse Press, and he agreed to publish. The lovely cover, and this is the cover, is his artwork. He creates the cover for every book. So we will give you a taste of the anthology this evening, and our first reader is Joan Alice Wood Kimball, author of a poetry collection, Early Light. She runs 2 poetry workshops and has a poem inscribed on granite in Edmonds Park, Newton, Mass. Joan.
Thank you, Paulette. I would like to read a poem by one of our members and then a couple of poems by myself. My first poem is by Rena Espaillat, who is our leader. And the poem I'm going to read of hers is called Just Stopping. It's a nonce form in 5-line rhymed stanzas. Just stopping. The God in whom I once believed showed up last night beside my bed and sat down at the foot. I said, "What a surprise, Lord. I'm relieved that you're not dead." He shrugged. "I have good days and bad. When I was Zeus, what clout I had. These days, it's all about complaints. What thanks we get, it makes me mad, goes to the saints for curing stuff and granting things, as if creation were a mall where every merchant has his stall, and arguments. You're made of strings, you're a big ball of motion, you're a state of mind, you're mathematics, and on and on. Now I could see his face was lined like that of some old mafia don whose turf has gone. And he looked tired, which, tell the truth, he'd have to be by now, and bored, unlike his counterpart in hell, and only fitfully adored. He wasn't well. I told him, "Look, you need some sleep. Lie down. I'll wake you when it's day and make you breakfast if you stay." but mumbling promises to keep, he paled away. When light returned, I knew I'd done less than I should. But then he'd run too soon to hear what or how much I might have said. Thanks for the sun, or stay in touch. And now for a couple of poems by me. The first one is a sonnet, and it is called On First Looking at Rembrandt's The Shipbuilder and His Wife. And since it's a pop painting that I'm talking about, I thought I should show it to you. Let's see, can you see that? The shipbuilder is right here, and he is designing a ship. And in rushes his wife, and she's handing him a note while still holding the door because she's in such a hurry. I saw that painting at the Fine Arts Museum back in 2015, and I loved it so much I went back 3 or 4 times to see it. On first looking at Rembrandt's The Shipbuilder and His Wife. Of couples, many portraits have I seen that showed them holding stiff, their gaze at me so forced. For example, with pitchfork, standing lean, or seated, plump in satin robes and lace, or leaving Eden, nude except for fig tree leaves, or praying at a cradle in a stable. There was a static quality. The sitters had to freeze to let the painter work his chosen fable. Consider my surprise to see, by chance, a classic artist's quite eccentric portrait of a man and wife in momentary stance. He startled, she bursting with a rushed report. It limned such fleeting action that they can't have posed for long, not even for Rembrandt. And my last poem is quatrains, rhymed quatrains, and it's called Rhymes from a River. And I want you to imagine a willow tree on a riverbank. Rhymes from a river. A stream so blue, it mimics the sky. A dawn, a golden scar. A chain of mallards drifting by, a chain of geese afar. A willow shading bloated spill above a quick mink's wake. A tethered rowboat, not quite still. A glint of water snake. A tree crown shading early light. A red root sucking mud. A sap vein coursing its full height above the river flood. A human touch, the dock protrudes, an angle thrusting out. A wooden stage for solitude. A span to nurture doubt. Thank you. And now, I would like to introduce the next reader. The next reader is José Edmundo Ocampo Reyes. Take it away, Jody.
Thank you so much, Joan. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to read my 3 poems in the anthology, followed by a couple by fellow powwows. My first poem has some financial terminology. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to read my 3 poems in the anthology. The first one has some financial terminology, which I included in the chat. And this is my reimagining of Gogol's novel Dead Souls, from which the epigraph is taken. Acquisition is to blame for everything. Because of it, things have been done which the world dubs not quite clean. Portrait of Chichikov as a mortgage trader. He buys up all the mortgages he can, cramming their cash flows into CDOs investors crave, though they don't understand the risk of loss. Not even Moody's knows. He buys up billions worth but doesn't care whose loans these are. What matters is his spread. As they continue living unaware, to him these souls may just as well be dead. Today, a single name catches his eye. Tatiana, waitress, sole support of 4. But the next trade cut short his reverie, denying him a glimpse into her war. The home, the bonds she fights in vain to save, while she becomes her labor, like a slave. Instructions to travelers from the third world. Before you cross the border, you must learn how to use your passport, the sine qua non of any voyage. Guard it as your life. You must not lose your passport. Your photo may adorn it, but it really is the property of your crumbling republic as you are. It is a crime to alter or reproduce your passport. Peculiar to you as your shadow, your fingerprint, your double helix. It is neither carte blanche nor diary of hopes. Don't abuse your passport. You dream of glimpsing snow, cathedrals, fist-sized diamonds plundered from your land. First, you must queue for hours in the sun, wait for the consul to peruse your passport. When he slams down his crimson stamp like a gavel, and you walk home, dusting off your shame, how easy it will be to accuse your passport. But it is guiltless as a tortured root that causes you to trip and break a bone. Blame instead your fellow terrorists and refugees, and excuse your passport. Think you can sneak by without a visa, feign ignorance, charm the immigration officer with your strange locution? Your scheme will boomerang once he views your passport. Your name, the theorems you've proved, your cancer cure are of no consequence. Its pages blighted fields, your passport is your world. You cannot choose your passport.
Wow.
For my next poem, so I'm from the Philippines, and it's probably useful for you to know that the Philippines has the 4th largest population of English speakers in the world, after the US, India, and the United Kingdom.
Oh.
Boondocks. To show our appreciation for your gift of language, we'd like to offer you one word of our own, bundok, which means mountain. It may not slide as smoothly off your tongue as the French montagne, but we hope nonetheless your lexicon can accommodate this term, which has been blessed by the goddess who scatters ginger along Makiling's slopes. Keep it as a souvenir of the times we fought side by side when the Japanese hunted us down in the Cordilleras, and let your poets repeat it when they recount those still unnamed battles in their slim volumes. Remember to say the word out loud for luck before you leave our shores, your frigates full of timber, siblings, gold. Um, I'm going to read a couple of poems by my fellow powwows. The first is by the late David Davis, Sonnet with Horse. A quatrain made of one strong rhyme and glue to hold the lines that long to fly apart. A weaker rhyme that somehow has to do. A horse that hates to pull its racing cart. Another quatrain stronger than the first, appealing the senses. Red flutters from its mane while bubbles burst inside the spittle hanging from its head. A volta taking us from there to here while the horse rebelliously plods. One good turn deserves another near a final couplet written by the gods. These enterprises fit our grand design if horse and sonnet reach the finish line. And here's a sonnet by Kyle Potvin. Love note. Unseen, she tucked it in her lover's coat while he was busy packing up his clothes and laptop for a week away. The note might be discovered on the plane, who knows, or still much later in a hotel room before he settles into bed alone. Alone. She feels a sudden sense of doom about things left undone and things unknown. What if the letter falls out like a glove lost in a crowded airport ticket line, then stamped by ruthless heels that can't feel love? She wishes she had sent a clearer sign, concealed her words where only he could see, tattooed beneath his skin indelibly. And finally, a poem by Tony Treadway. Late Harvest. The berries that withstand the frost, if they endure at all, have liquor juice and puckered flesh, unlike the fruit of fall. They're hanging in the garden's ruin until some hand or wing can part the crumpled, mildewed leaves and grasp the precious thing. And I'm happy to introduce Andrew Szilvasy. He is an English teacher outside Boston and the author of the chapbook, Witness Marks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm going to read a suite of poems. One of the nice things about being kind of an inveterate late waker as much as possible on weekends and delaying on responding to emails, I'm sorry for all of you who have emailed me, is that even though you don't get the first choice in the poems you might love in this anthology is filled with so many great poems that we're not even reading poets who have multiple awards. It's so rich. So I was able to find so many great poems, and I just sort of let the Baudelairean idea of correspondences thread me through. So I'm going to start with a naughty poem, because I think all poetry reading should start with that, which is Meredith Bergman's poem, Period Furniture, the Royal Bedchamber, which is inscribed with an epigraph from the Museum of Sex. Nobody thinks that this is really art. It's just the stuff that dreams are made on, hung with rich, explicit tapestries that chart a dozen metamorphoses. Among these flagrant scenes, intended to impart a history for acts that all our young discover, none alludes to what the heart requires. The role of marriage is unsung. But beds are made. This took us many years. The heyday in the blood seems nearly tame, yet every spring supports and reaffirms our passion's heft. The craft, the art that clears a brow, ignites a laugh, can still inflame this antique bed of wood made frail by worms. I'm going to go from here to another wonderful poet. Again, every one of these are poets I just so deeply admire. This is Alfred Nicol, who Alfred Nicole read at the book launching, a poem by me. So he did such a wonderful job. I'm sort of intimidated. I hope I can do his poem at dusk justice. At dusk. At dusk, out on Plum Island, in October, my friend and I sit on a ridge of sand that overlooks the sea. Indulging memory, a child again, she takes her father's hand. When she grows tired, he lifts her to his shoulder. Slowly now, a darkness fills the hollows. Splotches of sunset founder in the rills. Closing her eyes, she sees. Beyond the guava trees, along that inland homeward path she follows, La Vega in the shadow of its hills. As for me, I grip the captain's wheel, each salt air inhalation like a dram. My dreams are all about adventure, setting out, until I feel myself adrift, off keel, and start the long way back to where I am. We brace ourselves as we descend the dune, caught up in time, itself a kind of tide, whose whirls and eddies trace the stories of a place. Our footprints will get covered over soon. For now, they skirt the beach grass side by side.
Nice.
And now I get to descend to my poem in this anthology. It is from the collection that was mentioned, Witness Marks. It is called Beyond All Change. And the opening line of this poem is from a poet I very deeply admire, the late William Bronck. The poem is called Midsummer, and that opening line is what the poem sort of riffs on. Beyond all change. The earth is beautiful beyond all change. I think it's the all that really gets me. Naked trees in a milk-white field, or eagles picture still on mountains that cradle the jaws of Lake Leviathans. These are beautiful beyond all change. And I can see the deep sea beauty of the anglerfish, whose take on love makes true the human lie, flesh of our flesh, blood of our blood. But is the poet right about all change? There will come a time when the bloated sun will drink the rocks and breathe the oceans. When we sit with crows in flaming trees, will we walk hand in hand, admiring the mountains that melt around us? And I will end this with a wonderful poem. One of the first poems I actually read by the Powows. I sent it out when I teach, and I use this during Poetry Month because I try to get the science teachers in the school to read poetry because they need to be a little more cultured, I think. And this is Bob Crawford's What Matters Here. An atom's 99% nothing at all. The world's an empty place. Its solid shapes are objects we invent to give a form to nuclei in space. But these constructions aren't exactly fake. It hurts when, as a test, we kick a stone. Electrons charge across the void and make illusions hard enough to break a bone. Outside the window, photons waver, glow, collapsing to what matters here, your bright blue scarf, dark hair, a body that I know is not a trick of late November light. You and I, more than a thought, thin air, unique arrangements of what isn't there.
Nice.
So I have the great pleasure to introduce the wonderful Anton Yakovlev, whose latest collection of translations is The Last Poet on the Village, selected poems by Sergei Yesenin. I hope I got the Yesenin correct. Wonderful poet. And thank you, Anton.
And I'm going to read two of my poems in the anthology, followed by one poem by Barbara Weidecker-Crane, who is here, and I hope I will not butcher it too much. Let's do my two poems first. Peter's Denial. We turned our backs on you that very day, too frightened to bear witness in your trial. Now, Your small motorboat, sunk in the bay, haunts the horizon. They had no file on you, so they came up with some BS. Some lazy fingers chicken scratched your crime. The firing squad wasn't on hand, I guess, so they reduced your sentence to hard time. Your room stands vacant. Your half-open door keeps pummeling your out-of-tune guitar, echoing in the downstairs staffy store. Your phone, incinerated with your car, dials us every night at 4:30 to let us know exactly what we are.
Nice. Very
The
good.
informant. The man in the vest adjusted his hair. His eyes were electric blue. You knew who he was and why he was there. Sadly, no one else knew. Then Boris came out with his Trotsky quip. Said Trotsky wasn't that bad. You noticed the blue-eyed man bite his lip. Nothing more would need to be said. You watched it unfold for the rest of the night. The way Boris kept getting lit, the charm he turned on, his teammates delighted his escapist wit. The next morning, you knew not to look for him. His room was empty and clean. The hotel had checked in no one by that name. He was never heard from again. It's been decades. Your children are teaching school. Last December, the curtain fell. Some teammates of yours fell to alcohol. You're retired, still in decent health. You think of Boris, that talking dead on that night of pickles and vodka, and the shadow of Azrael over his head in the shape of a blue-eyed informant. Was he sent to the gulag, or was he shot in the head right there in the yard? You will never switch off this thought. You will never get a fresh start. There are bullet holes in the back of the bus and behind the old kindergarten. There is blood in the benches where fathers drink kvass and ex-convicts make concept art. You walk these streets every single day. You drive your Jeep among ghosts. You've grown accustomed to it. It's okay. Nothing revealed, nothing lost. Only sometimes, at home, you let out a sigh. Your granddaughter looks up at you. You notice her look, raise an eyebrow, smile. Her eyes are electric blue.
Wow, very good.
Thank you. And now, by Barbara Ledecker Crane, Shards of Knowing, Czech Republic, May 2017. She gives us only shards of what she knows about this former forced labor camp. I live nearby. I volunteer, and this is just my second week as a guide, says Marta, as she strokes her tiny necklace cross. She gives our tourist group an overview of how and when the Soviet regime imprisoned Czechs suspected of dissent. For cooks and guards, they hired locals. But, she's quick to add, Soviets ran the camp. They forced the men to mine uranium for bombs, and hundreds died from radiation. Marta shows us rusted trams on tracks that carted out the blackened mining waste into a looming mound beyond the fence. Pointed posts and corner sentry towers punctuate the lines of thick barbed wire. Someone asks if prisoners escaped. One did, the guide replies, but 7 more were shot and killed, here or at the border. There's silence. I ask her softly if she had a relative imprisoned here. She pauses, then reveals, I had a grandfather here for years. I don't know much about his time. She straightens up. Please follow me inside. The little library is packed with party tracts. I picture a gaunt old man who's more than willing to sit and read anything at all, while our guide decries indoctrination. Stalin, from his frame, listens in. Down some steps and ducking heads to enter, we cluster then in claustrophobic dark to hear the whole, the harshest punishment. Imagine summer heat, Martha murmurs, or sleeping on this bare concrete in winter. We shiver under a still gray sky while trooping to a barrack. Sometimes to break their minds, our guide relates. The guards forced men to stand beside their bunks all night. If someone dozed, the guards bellowed and banged against the bars. I almost glimpse a gray-haired sleeper sway as we're taken to the hospital, a room with beds, cabinet, table, one white coat. A prisoner was admitted, Martha winces, only if he'd lost the strength to walk. Our guide is looking spent herself. Tour done, I thank her, and she leans her head to mine. My deda, a barrack guard, 11 years, to feed his children. Martha's voice breaks. She turns away, head down, and shoulders hunched. Rain begins to pelt the gravel walk, and I scurry to the bus, the last to board. The guide gives a wave, akin to a salute. We pull away as Martha stands stock still and shrinks inside the camp's open gate. Barcrane. Thank you.
Wonderful.
And now back to Paulette Turco.
Thank you so much, Anton. Thank you so much, all of our readers. And I'm grateful for the honor to close our reading with reading the dedication page poem by David Berman, previously published in the Peacock Journal. The effect of hearing the sublime. Odysseus, who heard the sirens sing, was not enraptured by another thing. He heard from human lips, fools muttering, and golden sounds that proved the flutist's skill, which other men said gave their hearts a thrill. To him were equally dislikable. He knew that he would never hear again the sounds he would have died for had his men been able to hear what he said to them, which was, steer toward the music, though it means we shall not land upon familiar scenes, nor want to, once this music intervenes. Thank you. Thank you for being a great audience. There's a link to the anthology in the chat room. And we welcome questions, Mark, if you think we have time for them.
Yes, I think that would be nice.
Okay.
Spend a few minutes and have a little Q&A.
Wonderful. So we can't see everyone on the screen. Mark, can you tell who's? Oh, Barbara has a question.
I do. Anton, first, thank you for reading my poem. And let me say that it's like 95% true. The 5% that I'm only surmising is that the guide had a grandfather who worked at the camp. I don't know that, but yet the pieces fit. And I'm wondering if your poems, which also had to do with Soviet repression, had basis in fact.
The second one, The Informant, is based on my grandfather's. The U is my grandfather, who was a coach for a track and field Olympic team, and so they always had like a KGB agent following them around, called the Minder, who would always just sort of like kind of hang out whenever they traveled anywhere. just like gonna be there to make sure that no one defected, no one escaped, no one said anything. And there's actually like a true story that somebody said Trotsky wasn't that bad, and then like everyone was wondering what the hell happened to him. Just disappeared the next day.
That was a great poem. Thank you.
Thank you. And your story, I mean, yeah, I almost teared up reading it. It's a really, really amazing poem, Barbara.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to say how much I've enjoyed the poetry. It's a little odd, you know, in this Zoom world with the muted microphones. So I just want to take the chance to say that this was really, it was lovely to hear everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, daughter.
And check the chat room during the open mic. There's Alex Peppel is here. Hi, Alex. He has a program tomorrow evening with 3 books, authors of books by Able Muse tomorrow. And check out for more. There's more news. And we're looking forward to hearing your poems.
Before we wrap up, I just wanted to second what Margot Kimball had said. It was really neat to, you know, because of Joan Kimball, to be able to dial in and hear some poetry like this. It's not something you run into every day. I mean, it's kind of your world, and you're sharing it amongst one another. But it's really cool to listen to as kind of a casual listener. And someone referenced earlier the additional boost poetry got last week with the inauguration. But it's just very cool to hear. It just all seems like it's coming, you know, straight from the heart, and just very nice. So Joan, thank you for inviting us, and thank you all for doing what you do. It's pretty cool.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
He's my nephew.
Thank you, Joan, for inviting me. It was impressive.
You're welcome, Sandy.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts on the book and the poems? All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Paulette. And thank you, Powow River Poets. Actually, I have a question about your group. Do you meet monthly? What is how do you conduct your group? Because I'm not familiar that much with groups, so I'm interested in just hearing how you do things that people might like to know.
Sure. We have monthly workshops, which everything's on Zoom right now. And we have typically had readings open to the public every other month, but during COVID, so far we've met every month. We've given a program every month, and we're planning on doing that for 2021. And we're looking forward to the day we can be in person.
Yeah.
We're not planning what that day is. For our North Andover meeting, it's an unbelievable location. It's safe, and you can spread out, and it's so beautiful. We can't mimic that in Newburyport for our readings.
What ends up happening is the great Don Kimball, who's here, has to wrangle us in person or in Zoom as we sort of talk out loud over each other.
All right. Yeah, and actually just to note, one thing that's really nice about the Stevens estate is that you can be outdoors on the lawn, and even if it rains, they have a giant tent that's used for functions, for weddings. So you always have a place to escape to that's still out in the air. So we're looking forward to it.
Go to.
All right, I think we're ready for the open mic. And what I did.
Say one other thing about before we get
on the telephone, and my name is James Nicole. I'm in New York, but you asked about the Powow group. I want to say something about it from a somewhat outsider. I've been their guest there several times, and what they can't quite tell you is that everyone there's so much brilliance at the table, but also so much generosity. I never got a comment on a poem that I brought to workshop, I guess twice or three. I've been there twice or three times, but once as a featured poet, and once because Rena invited me because I met her and Alfred and Joe Kennedy at a Boston poetry festival, and within months, Joe Kennedy, his name is on the back of my book, and within another year, Rena's name is on the back of my other book. But every comment that they said in the poem was not only useful, but I remember what David Berman said. I remember what David said about poems of mine, and Bob Crawford. And so I just the kind of generosity. I remember I'm from the theater. When I went to Seattle to visit all those theaters in the 80s or early 90s, they said, if one theater's in danger, all the others get together to keep it from closing. So the notion of competition or my loss is your gain or whatever, there's absolutely none of that there. Everyone's rooting for everybody else, and particularly the more brilliant they are, the more incisive and helpful their comments. That's singularly incredible and lovely, and that's what we have to be about as human beings today too, of course. But I just thought I'd mention that. They couldn't say that about themselves, of course, but I can say it.
Thank you so much. That was so kind.
Yeah, and Kyle Potvin is I've been to my events, and when she sees something of mine, I'm pretty sure she shoots me an email, say lovely poem, and I get that from several people that just remember it was just so nice, etc. So I really am flabbergasted by that group. So I love driving up. and Anton's from Worcester, and so am I, Worcester, Massachusetts, and so am I. So we have that connection, and that's not lovely. His parents live near the hospital I was born in.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
And you also said something that is wonderful because it we have this mythos in our country. One of the mythos is that there's this competition that goes on, right? We're in competition with one another to reach the top of the mountain, the top of the pile. But when you work with people and you share life with people, you find out that most people, their strongest sense is to be cooperative. And so what you said is that the way the theaters, everyone roots for everyone else, really applies to all of us, so many of us, and we forget that. And I think we need to extend our mythos a little bit to remind ourselves of that when we're in a country where everyone succeeds, together we all succeed. So I love what you said.
Yeah, that zero-sum notion was a learned thought, and in the capitalist era after Adam Smith, 1415, 1600s, that wasn't natural. We had too many dangers in the ancient world to face. I mean, pre-civilization and stuff. There was a storm coming, there was night coming, the tornado, the volcano, bad crops. Even before crops, no berries today. We had to work together, and we all are on planet spaceship together. Spaceship Earth. That's it. Spaceship Earth together. There is one race. We're all going in the same direction. Is the God's truth, not the fact that there's genome pools, whatever. But yes, and so those correspondence or connections that Baudelaire mentions, the connections between us all have to be greater than the differences, and we have to start leading the way as poets, which started on the 20th, I hope, with that lovely Miss Gorman. Yeah, So God bless you for chiming in and saying, yeah, we got to try to shine the light ahead.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to open up the open mic, and I know that when you were logging into the meeting, you probably didn't know that was the rule, and you might have gotten here sooner if you knew. But hey, I had to have a rule, so to bring some order because it is a large group. So I'm going to put out names, and hold on just a minute. Let me make an adjustment here. There we go. All right. And So I'm going to go down the list, and I'll call your name out. But if you have a poem, then you're welcome to read one. And if you don't, that's fine too. So Catherine Chamber, you were the first one here. Do you have a poem you'd like to read? Actually, I don't know if Catherine is still here. All right. I don't hear Catherine, so I'll go on to Joan Moser. Do you have a poem you'd like to read?
She and Mike Moser left.
They did. Okay. John Bishop, are you here?
Yep.
You have the floor.
Great, thank you. So this one is called The Quotidian. Light breaks, golden branches hitting your eyes, calling you awake. No, not yet, you protest, not yet. You shut your eyes and try to drift back to dreams, but your mind races like galloping hooves on a track, like a starbound rocket. And you're thinking of the day, the things to do, the racing from place to place, like ants hungry for leaves, or maybe wildebeest speeding across the sand. You keep pushing, but then pieces of morning dapple your half-shut eyes, and you realize there is no moment of peace, and so you relent, you wake up. A meager kitchen, brown chair, brown table, fridge rumbling like a truck, linoleum stained, bubbled stove, too old, microwave weak, like the light flickering on, off, above your head. But it's yours, the fault-lined cabinets, the aged dust in the air plumed each morning with coffee, with crackling bacon, a refuge yours from a world that can hiss, that can hate, that's stained like the back burner of the stove, the one you've been too lazy to clean. Cars glacial, cars frozen, cars sliding slowly ahead, sun bright, sun blaring, radio on, good songs, but bored, switch, another song, rock. There's no need to rush, enjoy the moment, let the tension fade, let your mind empty, let your shoulders relax, let your breathing slow, just breathe, just be free. Work, mindless tasks are not so mindless because they've given you the chance to chat with Tom, your friend, and both of you are complaining about data entry and all that. And why do we have these jobs, you both say, commiserating, and then you laugh, but quietly, because Terry, your boss, said you're like kindergartners, the two of you, a pair of kindergartners disrupting class, but isn't youth all disruption, you asked? And after that, you were reprimanded, and Terry didn't like that, just glared at you, he did. And Tom laughed, and you did too, but you figured you both did, that you should get back to work. So you both chat when you can, joyous interruptions of joyless tasks. And then you pledge to get drinks. You both pledge to get drinks, if not tonight, then another night. And you'll invite Greg and Ben and Jess, the woman you like, the woman everyone likes, and it'll be fun, just all of you outside of work, talking, drinking, talking, then drinking, and enjoying the company of these people, these wonderful people. 6 p.m. and you're free, so no more data entry for today, no more anything, and you're walking fast, galloping off to your car, fleeing this business, ready to return to doing things on your own time or not doing things, just taking in air, breathing in and out. And then after taking a walk, you decide to watch the sun fade out, the movie over now. And so you're here having eaten a nice dinner, a burger and some fries, you heat it up, and you're watching the sky kaleidoscope into dark. And then you know it's time for you to watch some television, do some reading, send some email or text, maybe a phone call. Then you head upstairs and you slide into bed and shut your eyes, the light gone for hours now, and drift slowly, slowly, slowly into the in-between and then into the long calm of dreaming. Light again, and then your alarm already, not yet, just a few more minutes, please, just a few more minutes. That's it.
Oh, excellent. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Before I go to the next one, I'm just going to lay the groundwork a little bit that I should have done at the beginning. We will go until 8:30. So I just want to let people know that that's the timeline we're working with here. And the other thing that I wanted to do was the special thing for the open mic was that whoever's the farthest away gets to jump to the front of the line. And I thought of that before I heard that Evie White was in Brazil, but then I was like, okay, if she's in Brazil and she would like to read, Evie, you're welcome to read a poem. Are you still here? I can look the list. No, I don't see her. Okay, well, is there someone outside of the continental US? I know we have someone from Quebec. Actually, that was Catherine Chamber, who's not with us here. Anyone from the West Coast? I think we had someone from Minnesota, right? Well, okay, I'll continue down the list. So fourth on the list is David Miller. Do you have a poem you'd like to read?
Sure, thank you, yeah. Since it's actively snowing outside, I thought I'd read a poem that's a true story of Florida. It's in two parts. The second part is a good deal briefer than the first. Sun rises with my father. 1. My father, settled in a place where he could walk outdoors all year, made it his pleasure to help the old folks. Retired, but barely stepped across that definite senior discount line, he rose each Florida's pre-dawn, traced on foot the route the paper boys followed to fling the Sarasota Herald Tribune lightly at the ends of driveways. If these neighbors were the definite elders, my parents were numbered among the youngers. He knew the old ones by name, knew which of them needed their news carried to their porches. Warmth and moisture soothed his lungs, grown rasping with Massachusetts freeze. 20 minutes walk before the sun burst out with its own baggage helped to shrink a belly pointlessly enlarged. I wanted to know something beyond the tourist guides about this place, so easy, soft, and alien. Some mornings on our visits near the solstice, those shortened days oddly considered cold, I'd rise and dress in darkness, shielding my wife's shut eyes against marauding light, fumbled the living room to meet him. Off we'd set, do-gooders at the end of night, returned for coffee as bands of red lifted above the roofs. 2. 20 years downstream, my father, a widower, one of the elders, still met the early hours before I cared to. I'd fumble out to meet him, his head crooked back on the rose-pink recliner, shut-eyed after first caffeine. The other olds now fended on their own, for headlines dropped at their driveway's ends. The younger elder, I stepped into light for one minuscule good deed, fetched the paper for his second waking, or his third. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. All right, Harry Durso, do you have a poem you'd like to read? Harry's one of our regulars at the Frost Hoot. He lives in Lawrence. I see him still here.
Make sure you have the telephone guy on your list. I don't know if you can see my name.
I do have, actually, James and Nicola, I do have you. You are up in 2.
Very good. Just to make sure sometimes people don't see it. Very good. Thank you.
You have friends who took care of you.
Oh, God bless.
Harry Durso.
Harry, you need to unmute. You need to unmute.
No, I'm not muted.
There you go.
I'm okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. I want to thank everyone before I start. I'm a little bit long-winded, so I won't go into it, but I'm very impressed with this whole evening, Mark, and everybody's class and dignity. And I believe in the oral tradition. I mean, we're getting cultures we're getting thoughts that are just bombarding me, and I appreciate it. So thank you. I'm going to keep it short tonight, which is not one of my long suits, but I will keep it short. This is called My Father Was My Hero. My father was my hero. I admire his courage still now when my own memories are starting to fade. I've had many heroes in my life. I recognize them more now as I get older. Incredible men and women who inspired me, writers and actors and builders and truck drivers and teachers who saved the world every day. A tree guy I hired to free fall from a Civil War tree to save it. My billionaire boss in college who taught me a lesson every day. My acting coach who screamed at me to challenge God with my body and soul with defiance until my body shook on stage. The doctors who used their every means to save my life. The nurse who held my hand all night and wrote down my dreams so I could live. So many heroes, more than I can remember every day. I thank God that so many heroes existed for me. I hope that I've been a hero that someone will remember when they are waiting in a line somewhere and not thinking of much, and that they would smile when they try to remember my name. That's it.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Mark. You're my hero, Mark.
Thanks.
But tonight, anyway.
Hey, did you mail the check?
Yes, I did. It's gonna bounce, so don't think too fond of it.
I'm gonna frame it. All right.
Don't look at it too long.
Mary Ann Delaney.
Thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.
Mary Ann Delaney, are you still here? And would you like to read a poem? I don't see her name. All right. We will go on to James Nicola. You're up.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good. There's some drilling outside, so I'm just holding up the phone now instead of speaker, because even though I'm on the 45th floor, sometimes you can hear stuff. The reason I really wanted to do this open mic is because at the first Powow group performance for this event, I was on a Wi-Fi place in the middle of this sonnet, which is for Rena Espaillat. I lost the connection, so I think Anton and Joan are in suspense on how does the sonnet end. Anyway, here we are. If you know Rena, you might have heard her say these words when a young poet or a student or a non-poet has asked a question about the writing process. And believe it or not, there it is. Okay. The Alchemy of Advice for Rena E. The poem that you have to write will make you write it, you told us, eventually. Before it even is, it makes us ache inside. Is that the way it gets to be, like other fruits of creativity? As seeds spawn trees, so for the simple sake of what is not, one day, inscrutably, my skin should sweat, my bones feel gnawed or quake, and once the acorns cracked, keep me awake night after night until there's poetry where there was none? Convinced that I should take your gracious words of wisdom seriously, I have not written anything in years, nor been much bothered, till now, it appears. And then this other one is brand new, and it's about what we were talking about, the hope for the future. And it's also totally a true story. Rainbow Man. The day after the inauguration, I went for a jog to the Hudson River in the frigid early hours before the world was up. Except, that is, for two strange legs. Strange, that is, in that I did not know them as I knew most of the early morning crowd of Pier 84, which I only saw from behind, way out on the pier above the river, just across from the Intrepid and the Concorde. The toes were pointing north, toward George Washington, once a founding father, but now a bridge. The feet filled two bright canvas shoes with all the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, plus black and white. When I jogged by, I could not see the face, but took a chance, and to the jacket's back I said, You're walking on two rainbows. What I mean is that I get to walk on water, jog on water every day here on the pier, but you can say you're walking on rainbows. The rainbows turned to me and showed the face of a young man. His skin was dark and light. He had a single nose ring in his nose and beamed forth with a smile, making me glad I took a chance on a stranger and spoke, which is not always fortunate, alas. And he said back to me through the smile, "Thank you for that perspective." And I kept jogging. A few laps later, as he left the pier and the park, he walked by and said, "Enjoy your day," which words might not have shattered earth or shook the firmament, but in the way he smiled and walked on rainbows, I felt for the moment that I might have mattered too.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You can't
Thank
see
you.
us clapping, but we're all clapping.
Oh, God bless your souls. Oh, I'm going to workshop that in Wayland one of these, but I just sent it to Joan, because it's brand new. And so for people, but thank you for being, guinea pigs, what's the word, first respondents. Thank you for being first respondents.
Well, do send it to me.
I did already. That's one of the two I sent you, Joan. So we'll get it in one of these months coming up. Yeah, that'll be lovely. Thank you. I think I did. I think that's one I chose. Yeah, because I need response. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Great. Thanks, James.
I'm gonna mute now, but I'm gonna listen to everybody. Okay, bye.
All right. Next on the list is Don Kimball. Are you here? And do you have a poem you'd like to read? Maybe not. Okay. Next on the list is Mr. Jimmy. And I think I know who that is, but I'm not sure. Mr. Jimmy or Jimmy, are you here?
Let me decloak. There. The lighting makes it look like a crypt, so here we go. Yeah, there I am.
Thank you, Mr. Poe.
The Prince of Darkness.
All right, you have the floor.
So I usually edit and winnow down while all the other poems are going on. So I got it down to the one. Oh, wow, this thing is sluggish. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Ooh,
Your audio,
it's flying around.
Yep, your audio is fine.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to wait for my phone to appear here. It's another reason I get the video turned off. Wait a second.
Do I have to do anything?
Sorry about that. No, maybe I'll get more horsepower if I turn off the video. Whoop. Oh, tap on that one more time. There. Okay. Am I still there?
You are.
One fine song. The sound of, ooh, dang, this thing is crazy. What the heck? Okay. Oh, wow, this is really, sorry. All right. One fine song. The sound across the August fields went dead again. I don't know. Am I doomed?
Can you just read it?
Yeah, well, I read it on the screen and then it disappears and the video shows up gray instead. I've got an idea. Oh, man.
Well,
this thing is really working hard. All right. See if I can, there we go. I think this might spare me the sound across the August fields flashes independent, wavering through the heat shimmers. a star talking to sky and soul, rays slipping through the window, piercing the dark, calling a flood of memory to dance in my mind. Your fiddle, dang, now they're trying to sell me something. Okay. Your fiddle gives me a sweet truth that holds my shoulders when my head is low, makes me rise and dance. You smile, you sparkle from your eyes, a reason to be here. I was wondering if there was a reason today. In a land of distance and vacuum, a living piece of soul to close the miles. How familiar that song and smile is. I made it.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Wow.
That's a beautiful poem. And you also had, I think you had us going, trying to decide what was the poem and what was not. Reality intruded. Thank you.
I was wavering. Yeah.
So next up is Paul Diani, if I'm pronouncing that right. If you have a poem.
You are, but I'm all ears. So thank you all. I'll cede the floor.
Oh, okay. All right. Next up then is Deborah Woodward, if you're here and you have a poem. I see a D Woodward. I don't see a Deborah Woodward, so maybe she left. Okay. David Brigley. Nope, I don't see a David Brigley. I got to go through the list faster. The next is Franny Osman. I do see you.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
I think I will read two short poems. Mother, the word. I used to think mother and martyr had the same root. Mother, martyr, generous, open-hearted, M of mother, a happy hum, a myth read at bedside. The mother saying mother like the airy ba of a lamb. Mother, mother, mother in the rhythm of kneading dough. Now mother is other, mother is a bother. Be back soon, clean the room. I am mother, matter, blather, bladder, putter, mother. Mother later will be mother, tripping over the tired tongue on straight edge dentures. The mother, where's the mother? Trailing end, mother, moth flits up to chandelier, leaves a sigh of resignation. And
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. This one I read on Tom Ashbrook once. There was a poetry day, and I was excited to read it. Sonnet on the joy of writing. The way the rhythm gets inside my head and won't come out until my poem is done. And even then I find I'm being led by magic muses marching dum-de-dum. That I ignore the hour and let my son chat on, enthusiastic, shrill with pride, about a poem that is his favorite one, the best so far, but safely hid inside his notebook, soft with words erased and then rewritten when they fall again to him, in literary rain that patters like a friend on roof, on head, with plan or on a whim. You'd think the words would shrink from noise and clatter, but no, they eat my life and come out fatter.
Beautiful, fun. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I've
Franny.
enjoyed this. It was so wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it is. Thanks.
It's fun, and I know I've been to 2 Powow anthology readings, so I think I'll become a groupie.
Well, Paulette will be happy to mail you those notices.
Yes, I'll be sending the notices around. Thank you.
All right. So we have time for one more, and then I have a few haikus to close with. And Joe Klaponis, you made it inside the gate. If you have a poem, I'd love to hear it.
Well, okay, thank you, Mark. I really enjoyed the evening. It's just been terrific to hear everyone, and I'll give it a go. I hope you enjoy what I have to offer. My poem is called Vinnie Chris's Teeth. It begins with an epigraph. History has truth, and so has legend. Victor Hugo. From the Obbaway to the Charles River to the Dedham Line, everyone passing the corner of Lusher and Washington, whether on foot or by car, truck, taxi, bicycle, or bus, has seen it. White against bricks, blood red, a simple legend. Vinnie Chris has no teeth. For over 40 years, Vinnie's toothlessness has been a matter of public record. Who is this Vinnie Chris? Does anyone really know? Why does he have no teeth? Is the statement literal, or is he a man who cannot eat a steak? Is the statement figurative? Is he a man with no bite, no juice, no influence? Who wrote this statement? Teenagers insulting an old man? Rival gang members issuing a warning? An angry, disappointed, bitter fiance, wife, would-be lover, sorry they ever got entangled with a will-less, toothless man? Or is it merely a simple statement of fact, letting us know that now and always, Vinnie will be pureeing his lunch? Regardless of intent, Vinnie's toothlessness remains and his story grows. He was a boxer. He came home stinking drunk and his wife whacked him with a wooden spoon. He was a goalie, stopped a puck with his face. He fell out of a chair and kissed the kitchen table edge. Our lives progress. We graduate, marry, raise families. We migrate from job to job. We leave the old neighborhood only to return for brief visits. But through it all, on the wall of a vacant store, there is one constant, a legend, a legacy, an epitaph, and historical fact open to interpretation, dispute, and possible revision. Vinnie Chris has no teeth.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you picked that to share. That's great. That's one of my favorites. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you, Paulette, and the four Powow River Poets who read. Some great poetry. Really wonderful. Reading your own and others. It's just great to hear.
Thank you so much for the invitation. We had so much fun.
All right. So, like I said, upcoming events. I have one on February 5th. I hope you can come out and join at First Friday Open Mic. And then also come here. Well, I say here, it's to Zoom for Frost Hoot on February 9th with another group of Powow poets. So it'll be an equally wonderful, amazing event. And Bob Whalen is here. And so I'm going to read another one of his haikus and one of my own. Open road at dawn, possibilities beckon, sunlight through the trees. Open road at dawn, possibilities beckon, sunlight through the trees. Bob? And then I'm going to close with one of my own. It's actually on the back of my business card, my poet business card. And here it is. A poem is a suitcase of words packed with brain, heart, and soul, ready for travel. There you go.
Very nice. I like that.
Well, thank you all. This is great. And looking forward to seeing more of you on the circuit at other powwow events or at other events of ours or on the North Shore or goodness, anywhere in the country nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
So much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a
This
lot,
was
everybody. Take
such
care.
a wonderful, wonderful
Thank you.
evening.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you all.
Wonderful. It was lots of fun.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you so much, Mark.